I think we have to think about there's no voluntary society, throughout the history of man where there were kind of vegans, there were by choice, there were, but not by evolution. So that's one thing. And there's all these arguments of, we need to cook meat in order for our brains to evolve, and we're, that changed us from the monkeys. So I have all these doctors who are super stringent on that. I believe in ethical vegans, to not like push them too hard. So if they have an ethical reason to not kill animals, or they want to not eat meat ethically, that's fine. But to use the arguments of going vegan kind of save, help with climate change and reversing greenhouse gases, these arguments aren't really true, because if we change over to a regenerative farming model, which we're kind of seeing us slowly kind of move in that direction versus factory farming, it's actually positive 2.75 carbon parts per billion to make one Impossible beef burger, and it's negative 2.75 carbon parts per billion to make a grass-finished burger. So you need to make 2 grass-finished burgers to make offset one. Make one. Yeah. So it's these arguments aren't really true. And then, my issue is not so much with the vegans, what they're eating, but more like the industry now. And I'll send you this picture of, like, I think it's all the top fast food chains are now doing Impossible or Beyond meat, right? Which is now the studies coming out that like they're killing rats in 7 days, and the FDA was pushed. I mean, some lobby obviously pushed the FDA to approve all this stuff, and FDA is probably going to have this huge class action lawsuit in 10 years. Like, people are going to get very, very sick. So if you go vegan, like, you can do it by a lot of hemp, a lot of mushrooms, a lot of whole real food, and like stick away from the processed foods. You can do it. But if you really want to do it, great. But almost every vegan entrepreneur, every vegan influencer that I've worked with, except for like 3, the past like 10 years, secretly have like come to me to ask them how to get away from being a vegan because they're getting sick, their teeth are falling out, their hair is falling out, and they're getting on a fish in 2 days and they're feeling better.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Ancient Health Podcast. My name is Courtney. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Motley. And today our guest is Misha Hyman. Oh man, guys, you're in for a treat. He is a fun guy, but he's also super smart, and he's changing the world, and he's doing it in great ways. And I can't wait to unpack all of that. But just to give you a brief understanding of who he is, what he's about, and what he's doing, he's the founder and CEO of the Health Warrior Project. He's an advocate of the urban farming industry. He also started something called biohacking, which we kind of already talked a little bit about. So I can't wait to peel back the layers on that and what that's all about. But he's a professional chef. He's a former athlete. And more importantly, he's on a mission to educate people on the power of food as medicine. So Misha, welcome to the show. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming, and I'm really happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
definitely. We had the connection, though. This is a really good connection. Our friend Lindsay, who helps us with the podcast and such. And so she was telling us about how great you were and all the things that you were doing and all the new advances that you research, the new avenues like biohacking, but also how you infuse it with what you do with like food as medicine. So I don't know how Courtney likes to kick it off, but I usually always ask people, like, tell us a little bit about yourself, like about the passion, like how you got into the work you do, why you like to do it, and just what attracted you to it.
I guess, do you want the 10,000 foot view or the 20,000 foot view?
Oh, heavens. Whatever is most comfortable to you.
I keep a short story long, as they say. I guess to really kind of bring my, story into genesis and how I really, became the health warrior, been someone who's really interested in creating trauma-informed healing centers, places where people can heal, biohacking being an element, ancient Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, indigenous medicine, to really calm the nervous system and heal our body, mind, and soul. Was I actually, honestly, the real reason, and I wrote about this on my website, is that I actually had a pretty staunch eating disorder or disordered eating issue that I deal with every day. And, I had just not to go too far into it, but I had 2 parents who were, super forward thinking in functional medicine. My father's a functional medicine doctor. So nothing in the house had hydrogenated oils, high fructose corn syrup, nothing in a package that wasn't like nuts or chocolate almonds or, whatever. So, I basically always had to cook for myself a meal, even, probably even to like 9, 10 years old. You come home, you're not going to have a snack. You have to make, rice, chicken, whatever. But, going, towards my college years, I always had a relationship where I wanted to, I would binge a lot when I had like the opportunity to. And then in college, I actually dated this woman. I wrote about this in my blog, who was a chubby chaser. You guys familiar with that term?
Chubby chaser?
Chubby chaser. Google it on Urban Dictionary. It's a
yeah.
Okay, I'm talking right now. Misha, tell us. I'm listening.
That's the last thing I ever expected to come out of your mouth right then.
No. This is so like I had basically imagine me having the understanding of food as medicine, what to eat, what not to eat, and then I'm finally dating this woman. I was a junior, senior in college, who was like, just go crazy. But ultimately, it was a psychological disorder. She wanted me to probably, not ever leave her because, trauma, codependency, so on and so forth. So I gained 127 pounds in 7 months. There's an article I'll send you guys, the Health Warrior Project, my healing journey on my website. I'll send it to you guys as a link everyone can read. But I basically was like, I was an athlete. I always played sports, but it was like I was 327 pounds at 6'2". It's not like I carried it well, but it was still 300 plus pounds. Mm-hmm. So the scale of 320, like 5 pounds. I'm like, you know what? We got to change it right now. Started going keto before keto was big in like 2014. In 2016, ketogenic diets was the most Googled diet like in the country. But I went like just basically ate like Vietnamese pho with no noodles, like every day at lunch at work. When I lived in DC, I worked for the Washington Wizards. I was really big into sports performance, peak performance. That's kind of my background in sports and sports nutrition. And then just like went like grass-fed beef and like greens and pho, for literally almost bone broth for like 7 months and lost almost all the weight. And I lost 129 pounds. It ended up being less weight. And then I started working for this life coaching company, sports performance development, which basically every single person I was working with, their core issue came down to either the relationship to food, relationship to their health, relationship to their kitchen and how they prepare food because of their family trauma and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And just seeing that in people is really interesting. Of like, sitting down at a meal, it can be very hard for some people. And other people, they love it. It's part of their culture. And then I just ended up, I was always like a cook and chef, and I always cooked for people. And then I started doing a lot of nonprofit work and chefing for a few families. And I was like, you know what? I need to just build my brand, the Health Warrior Project, to teach people how to eat whole, real food on a budget, organic, high quality food that's, a quarter less than what it would be for a family of 6 at McDonald's. So long story short, my story came from someone who experienced both sides of being super almost orthorexic, healthy, mandated by your family, leaving, kind of doing the binge cycle, seeing how toxic it can be for people, not just for your mental health, but your physical health, but your mental health. And then I started doing kind of human life coaching, development sort of work, which really became, that's why I'm like a health coach first, I would say, before a chef or a wellness entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. But to kind of wrap that all up, now I'm like a peak performance coach, but really I work with anybody that wants to just get healthy and, fix their brain. And that can go from, anything from people who are CEOs to people who are, working in like nonprofit sectors and just trying to be, healthy as they can be in their arena.
Wow.
That is a great story. I mean,
version, but yeah.
Oh man, that's a wild transition. I'm curious because of really the swings, coming from a background where, I mean, your childhood sounds nothing like Chris and I, because we were eating like ho-hos and drinking like
fudge rounds. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we're paying the price still, but here's the thing, like you started with this great foundation, then the pendulum swung so far in the other direction. But to me, the standout part is that even in that place where your body was not operating at its peak, that has to take an emotional toll on you. So like I'm interested, when you were in that, like, what did it look like for you to have to say like, okay, now it's time to like put all the pieces in place? Because when you don't feel your best, you're not probably confident like you were, because it's just like, you just don't feel like you're in your own body, right? Like you're experiencing life like you can. So like, what is that mental journey? Like, what was that like? Because there's a lot of people that get stuck and it's just like, they just feel like, man, I don't mentally know that I can get myself in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a twofold. I think one, getting people a quick reset to get out of there mentally. I can touch on that in a second. That's something I specialize in with my clients. But for me, it was more when I stepped on the scale, and I always had like body dysmorphia issues growing up. My sister kind of bullied me for being chubby growing up, so I had a lot of stuff there. And like when I stepped on the scale, it was more like, if I don't change my life now, and I could have been like 500 pounds if I kept going. It was like nuts. Like the stuff she was doing, she would make me. We lived in Florida. I was in college. So everything's cheap. We go out to eat. You order appetizer, entree, dessert. We'd eat like 3 bites, and I'd have to eat it. And she would shame me if I wouldn't eat the meal. But it was also like a lot of psychological abuse. She would say if I lost any weight, she would like want to break up with me. And then we had like a 2-year relationship. And I actually went to her mother's house. And I'd probably lost like 2 pounds, nothing. And I was like, "Oh, you look slender. You lost some weight." Like something nice to say. And we got in this huge fight. She's like, "I'm gonna break up with you. You lost weight. Go eat a burrito." So it was like this really toxic environment for me personally, where I had to realize like the people around me need to change for my environment to change.
That's good.
And it was, I didn't just lose 125 pounds. I lost like almost 240 pounds. I lost the toxic person as well, right? So what I was able to do, I think for me, and I was lucky, I got my dream job like right out of school, which doesn't really happen for anybody. I was in sports business, sports nutrition. I got a job in like with the Washington Wizards as like a video coordinator, intern, super low level job, but like I was in the mix of it in my career. So I knew I had something to look forward to. And if I had to lose the toxic girlfriend, you know what, like so be it. But I was lucky. I mean, I had something to look forward to. A lot of people are stuck in that cycle and also have a lot of codependent enabling relationships where it's not just their family but their friends, and I have a lot of friends, especially in the Hasidic Jewish community and a lot of religious communities, where they try to get healthy. They're like, why are you trying to shame us for our diet? And it's actually a shame-based thing to try to get healthy versus, no, I want to fix the underlying core issue with my chi or my frequency or my gut or my brain. And for me, it's almost like a, I don't want to get into body positivity now. That's another conversation, but there's a really dangerous conversation we're having, I think, as a nation where, our health, I think COVID helped. We see our health a little differently now, but feeling good and emotionally, we don't know what that means. So feeling good and also being sick, there's no correlation. So if we fix with everyone who's, loves their body positivity, that's great. We'll spend 10 minutes a day doing yoga, spend another 10 minutes doing breath work, go do a sauna, go for a 10-minute walk. That's less than an hour, right? So simple things in your life, and you actually will feel better. And it's not about how you look. It really is about how you feel, right? Because that's a whole gut, brain, body, mind, soul connection thing we can get into later. But yeah, I digress, but I think you can.
No, digress, man. This is great. So when you went through that and really chubby chaser, you being shamed for not eating, and I just looked at it and I've never heard that, guys. So I don't make light of this. This is very alarming to me. Like somebody would make you feel that way for losing weight.
Exactly.
Which that aspect from your post, your feed, from your website, you show about how to heal the emotional side of it. And I think that's a good way, like, to entryway into somebody's, health. Is that a way that you would suggest to people out there, or you yourself, like when you work with clients? I know you're looking at the whole spectrum, Misha, but do you find that you try to focus a bit more on how to relax the mind, how to get that spiritual journey going in heart? Is that a first aspect, or is it just like, how would you tell people out there to first look at their health?
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, first and foremost, if you're not doing the 3 basic things, sleep, nutrition, and hydration, all the mindfulness, all the meditation, all the yoga, all the breath work, it'll work, but it'll have limited impact, right? So hydrate, well, you sleep, men like 9 hours, women like 10 to 11 hours, preferably if you can. I know that sounds like a lot. like really just like real, I mean, sometimes you get 7, sometimes you get 6, I get it, but just try to actually have like really good sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And hydration and nutrition. Like if you don't do those things, in my opinion, it's very hard to get people to buy into, oh, that holotropic breath work changed my life. I never need to do any mushroom or ever any drink ever again. I can just breathe and calm down when I'm in a stressful situation. And I think for me, doing like a 5-day gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, kind of high-fat, not vegan, preferably if you are pescatarian, fine, but maybe throw in some grass-finished meat for 5 days will reset the nervous system enough. Do a little bit of yoga, breath work if you can, to do the other deeper work. That's my personal opinion, where it quiets the noise, and that's just inflammation, right? If we kind of can lower inflammation in the body through your diet, and then that's going to change your lifestyle. You probably just want to stretch more. You're not going to feel, your joints aren't going to be inflamed. Then at least for me personally, when I'm like on a 2-day fast and like just eating, almost nothing, maybe bulletproof coffee. And like for me, I like to reset on like a 2 or 3-day fast. It's so easy to meditate. Otherwise, it's like kind of hard for me to meditate because I got a lot of crap going on in there. But I think for people to really like almost simplify it, just like do an elimination diet for 5 days, and then we can talk about your healthier protocol long term. But that'll help, even 3 days. But like that'll help quiet the noise. But if you go day 1, hey, I'm gonna have a Big Mac and then go meditate, it's gonna be hard to meditate, and that's just my personal opinion. Unless you're like a guru genius who can just tap in, it's hard to quiet that noise.
Mm-hmm. I think that with when you're talking about cleansing out the actual toxicity of the body, I think people out there can forget that if you really want to get into a mental state or a spiritual state, that you can't have the toxicity running through your blood. Because we know, like in Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, they always say that the heart's the center of the mind, like the Shen. So we always say that you're going to have these feelings in your heart. And I always tell my clients, Misha, I always say, if you have too much toxicities, or you're not drinking enough water, your body doesn't even have enough electricity, doesn't even have the nutrients to actually push nutrients to the rest of the body, and your heart suffers. So just having the right nutrition and hydration. In fact, at times, I'm really surprised when a client comes in and I'm doing all this work and I'm like checking all these things and trying to sound all professional and I go, well, how much water do you drink? And I know you see this too, and you have, Courtney, as well. People say, I drink about 2 cups of water a day. And I'm like, a day? And they're like, yes. I said, go home and drink at least 8 cups of water to 10, and then come back to me and see if this is bothering you at all. Because to have like your kidneys shut down, your kidneys affected, you have to have the water,
Yeah, and our body's made up so much. Like, just think about the amount of water our body is made up of, and if we're not actually cleansing our water and letting it just drain our lymphatic drainage and let our body just do the work, we're putting so much stress in our nervous system for no reason. And I think also, like, I go to the sauna a lot. The Russian Turkish bathhouse is like my favorite detox, right, in New York City. But I find myself always dehydrated because I sweat 3 times as much or more when you're in there. So I'm always like trying to have the electrolytes, trying to have coconut water or good quality, sugar and electrolytes if I can. But it's shocking how people are just underhydrated.
Oh, yeah.
Walking as zombies almost.
And it's like with Courtney, like I love it because whenever I see Courtney, she loves to she's got her electrolytes and her minerals. Anytime you see when Courtney's around, she has those things going on. And Courtney, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the importance of the electrolyte system. And so we're talking about like when you invigorate the body in these simplistic formats, like you start to add in like nutrition in the format of like saying, okay, what kind of diet's good for you? So, and they get the basic ones down, like your hydration, your sleep. I love to go through all these, but with the nutrition, how do you recommend individuals? They all say, okay, let's do a keto diet. Let's do a paleo type diet. How do you suggest that to your patients, or what are the guidelines you would say, look within yourself, and this is the kind of diet you need?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's one size fits all method. Is not really how I approach it ever, but there are principles I think everyone should apply. If you can, try not to eat. I mean, for me, once to twice a day is almost, or twice a day is almost too much. And I really like monitoring myself, eating 3 meals a day is not something that we do as a species. Like we're not meant to be eating 3 meals a day. We're grazers. We eat when we're hungry. We eat when we stop. When there's a big kill, we bulk up. We're not like eating 3 meals a day at a table. So I would like to say to people, like, try to eat once a day if you can, right? Once or twice a day. Twice a day to start, but like once a day if you can. Not for everybody. For women, maybe not so much, but for men, I think is really important just to start resetting you. But like avoid I think it's more of what to avoid, right? Avoid processed food, processed sugars. Try to stay away from alternative sugars too. Stevia's for a while. Just like try to stay away from all that. For maple syrup if you can. That's probably the best I would say. And dairy, if you have dairy, have like heirloom dairy, really good, like raw dairy. Goat's okay, but just be careful with your dairy. And just like eat real whole food. Like if it doesn't have to all be organic, but if you can eat local, better. But it's pretty simple. And I think most people overcomplicate it. And they have all these friends and doctors who are on isogenics and are on these bars and that bars. But if you look at in the back of these packages, it's like 500 ingredients or like 400 ingredients or like, the list is this long. My rule of thumb, if it's in a package, no more than 3 or 4 ingredients, and everyone you have to pronounce, like almonds, salt, olive oil, and rosemary, like whatever, right? So I think the way we have to think about it is don't overcomplicate it, and then if you want to add in beans or grains in your diet, if you have any gut issues, like be careful with that. But for the most part, you shouldn't be eating grains at every meal. If you're from the Far East and you're used to, rice, that's a little different than us, Westerners. We can't really process the rice in the way, a lot of, people do in, East Asia and especially in Japan. But I think ultimately for the Western world, if we can have grains, forbidden rice, like quinoa, like maybe 2-3 times a week max. And then, seed oils, be very careful with seed oils. Avocado oil, walnut oil, black seed oil, even though it's a seed oil, really good olive oil. And you can get like healthy oils, grass-fed butter, ghee. But again, it's more, to me, my job as like a chef also is to make the healthy food seem enjoyable and almost more fun and more of an experience than, the gluten, dairy, sugar, processed food. So eat your colors, eat as much colors as you can, eat as local and as fresh as you can, but also don't have to break the bank, right, to do this. It's all like, if you go to the grocery store, I always tell my clients, just go on the outside, go to the vegetable aisle and the produce, go to the meat and fish aisle, and then like the eggs and butter and check out. And it's easy. You can be in and out in 20 minutes, any grocery store. Most people, they're running down every line. They're like getting these mixes, and the mixes have to get that and this. And we have we live in a very convenient culture, but we think prepackaged stuff's more convenient. But no, chopping up greens and throwing them on a pan with garlic, olive oil, and some fresh chili herbs and ginger takes 3 minutes versus baking the whole thing. So our whole paradigm is totally backwards, and that's kind of my job is to teach people that they can eat their way out of a bad out of their bad health and bad mental health. But also, if they choose to be the CEO or the captain of their own kind of input goes in their mouth, the gateway to your health is your mouth, right? So if you only have that responsibility, it's like almost 1/3 or 1/2, I think, of the whole health paradigm, which is like my job to convince people to do that.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So
you said, early on, like you kind of were eating a lot of like Vietnamese food. So if you're, because I see this a lot, and there's a lot of like women, especially, where they're so stressed out and they're trying to work out and they're like white knuckling their macros and like tracking everything.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Carrie, keep going.
Yeah. No, I'm curious, like for somebody that's trying and they're not getting the results, because you've been able to you've had to you've had to experience this, like you've had to dig yourself out of this and really foster a healthy relationship with food along the way. So like why is it that women are, and men, I'm not going to leave the men out, but like, why is it that people are doing this, like trying and still failing?
Do you know that? Okay. So that's actually a very good question and very good point. And it's something I see a lot with my clients. Do you guys know the term orthorexia by chance?
Yep.
All right. So orthorexia basically is, just for the, the audience, is basically you're almost too strict on your diet where nothing can come, you can't, you're an orthodox to your diet. So if you're gluten free, you can't have any gluten, no trace of soy sauce. You need to only have tomorrow. You're going to ask the waiter, you're going to have a panic attack. You're going to stress out your neighbors, stress out your friends, stress out the waiter. Your food's going to have stress in it. The chef's going to put stress energy into it. So it really creates a whole disaster. But what actually happens in that is when you actually, we all know this, right? You're a frequency doctor. You understand this, very thoroughly. When you're stressed, the cortisol levels in your body just, it just can't handle that stress. So it creates inflammation. And then when your body's inflamed, and especially from those, cortisol spikes from being stressed, it's almost impossible to put the body back in homeostasis. Your body cannot heal if you're inflamed, right? Mm-hmm. So I have all these women clients, especially. I have some men clients as well, but a lot of women clients just cannot lose the weight because they're so stressed out about losing the weight. Mm-hmm. So that's why you're like, well, what if you get in that mental state first? For people like that who can't lose a little bit of weight, I would say do some serious, trauma work or, healing work or therapy or, whatever, plant medicine, go see a shaman or something. But basically that level of stress will inhibit you from ever getting your goals physically and especially mentally, right? Because you're basically an ecosystem where your body is on fire, overreactive. And how can you heal there, right? And then when they're sleeping, they're probably never in REM sleep and they're never actually having a good night's sleep, and you can never recover, and their hair is probably not growing and their nails probably aren't growing just because of the stress. So they're doing everything right. They're going to the yoga class, they're having the green juice. And any single person who counts their macros, I put them in the orthorexic category, because you don't need to count. You literally I can feed you grass-fed bison, mountain leafy greens, sweet potato, cauliflower, a bunch of, scallops, prawns, a whole feast. You can have 4 servings and the high fiber and the nutrients that you're going to be pooping it out in the morning. You don't have to count any, macro there, right? So I think these people who are just so remember the gray sheet, any clients that do that? Like I have clients who are on the gray sheet. It creates mental illness. It's like absolute psychosis for these people. So, I think to say, what do you do with people who can't lose that weight? Do some deep spiritual work. And that can just be like getting an app and just meditating for an hour a day, a guided app, right? I'm not saying that deep. And you can listen to binaural beats and different frequencies on YouTube while you sleep. There's all these things you can do to calm your nervous system that's super, cheap, free, non-invasive. Or get a IM ketamine drip with your local doctor's office to reset your trauma, or, go do a yoga retreat or Vipassana for 10 days. There's so many things you can do to just reset your nervous system that our society is well, I just can't lose the weight. It's their fault. But no, we have to be the CEO. We have to be the author of our health. And, I think that was such a good point, Courtney, of people who do all the right things, listen to all these podcasts. Well, no one's telling them that you're probably overly stressed and you're probably losing your mind right now. Go do downward dog and calm down.
That's the way to do
downward dog and calm down. Can we maybe brand a tea? Maybe we should do merch. That would be our first piece.
That's a good one.
Piece of merch.
Downward dog and just think it out, when you're doing it. That's good.
I literally before the podcast was I had to do 3 other things after this call or after the podcast. And I'm like, you know what? I was going to do a little yoga for 5 minutes. They did it for 2 minutes and then reset everything. Did happy baby and downward dog, and now we're good to go.
Happy baby it is my favorite. This is great that we're talking about the relationship that you have to yourself. Like Courtney, we talking about to food, and Misha, when you're talking about you would suggest with certain types of food habits. I like to circle back too. Whenever a person's saying definitely I'm counting all my calories, I'm doing, counting all my macros, I'm doing these steps. When you're talking with fasting, because many people would even say that, there's some individuals who I've heard that say, well, is fasting good for you? Is fasting, the most beneficial? Because there's individuals who count their calories so much, and then you're worried about that person's mental state of health. Not, because they're are they getting too focused on something? And then they're they're saying, okay, let's do some fasting. So you have these individuals who can see fasting could be something that may not be, as beneficial or safe. what is your version on fasting? Because I've seen patients do really well with fasting. Like, I love this shirt, the Turkish bath. I mean, like, when you say doing fasting, do you do fasting and going to the sauna? Do you find those things really beneficial for individuals who are in that mental state of like getting too focused on, the macros and the calories?
Yeah, I think so. For those of you who aren't aware of what the benefits of fasting are, essentially it puts your body in a ketosis state, even if you're not on a ketosis diet, because you're running on ketones versus like glycogen and glucose. So I think, for me, when as someone who has a little disordered eating, I do binge on occasion. I only like to eat so me personally, as a chef food guy, I have a really funky thing. I never eat when I'm working because I have to like be focused, and I'm a rest and digest kind of guy. So whenever I eat, I want to just like chill and relax and like take a nap. Unless it's like, if it's gluten, especially, I'll do that. But if it's like not gluten, I'll still just like relax. But if I'm fasting, like I can't play sports, I can't go to the gym, I can't do yoga if I have any food in my system. And the banya, I can't go to the sauna, I can't go to the sauna with any food in my system. That's me. Some people need food, some people's bodies are different. But I think for the most part, like, women, careful with fasting, do it for like a week on and off. It's not a long time thing. But for men, if you really want to have high peak like mental performance, I would say like try not to eat until like 1 or 2. If you want to have a bulletproof coffee or tea in the morning, that's a couple of those, that's fine. Liquids are fine. My window is like 2 to 5. When I do 2 to 5, I'm not ever going to go to bed full. I can have a big meal, but my stomach has like shrunk a little bit, so I'm eating less food anyway. But I'm still, fully nourished. But I think that works for me. Some people, like I would say, for you, doctor, you probably would eat a little more food than me because I have a little more, fat storage. But it is kind of body dependent. But like if someone's super lean and they're fasting and they think it's like great for their brain, I would probably say you're probably need to eat a little more food. People who need to lose the weight to kickstart their brain, I think like, between 2 to 5, eat not as much as you want, but basically eat until you're satisfied, and don't ever count your macros. Like, maybe if you want to like and also calories, don't count your calories, because we all know calories in is not the same thing as calories out. 100 grams of calories of Coca-Cola is not the same as 100 grams of calories of broccoli, right? So we have this whole weird myth with I don't know your guys' position on that, but I have a whole shtick on that as well. But I think we need to think about what fuel we use, right? Don't think about like whether it's 87 octane or 91 octane, but if it's real whole food fuel, that's like real food and not these like protein powders and stuff. Like, people can just eat like a grass-fed meat, like beef jerky, or they can eat a chia seed bar. There's just so many things we could do that is so much less impactful for our long-term health, that we're just not always like thinking, because it's not, again, I don't think it's lack of, well, I never said this before, but my premise is these issues aren't so much a lack of access or lack of access. It's more of a lack of education. So if we can kind of educate the people to do the low-hanging fruit, I call them micro adjustments, where you're maybe adding $50 to your weekly budget on your mental health or your health, and maybe even saving money by long-term not having to pay for medical bills or medication. So I think we have to just be very conscientious of how we deal with our bodies overall.
Yeah,
we really aren't.
So good. What are your favorite, because you're a cook, you're a chef, I'm interested to know what it is that you feel like people enjoy the most, but like you said, they get the most out of it from a nutrition standpoint, but also socially and from community gathering to have a meal. Like, what is it that you feel like lands so well with people? Because sometimes we overcomplicate it, and that's why we don't act on things, because we just go to the produce section and we're like, do we do bok choy? Like, what do I even do with bok choy? Like, what's a parsnip? Like, it just becomes overload. And then like so many of us we're like, okay, put it all in the cart and we'll figure it out. And then we go home and like all this produce is sitting there for 5 days and we're like, oh, now I got to stress out and figure out how to cook it all. So like, what's like a good, what do you feel like are your favorites that you like to prepare, that you like to serve, that you like to gather and eat with, that you just feel like, man, people can access this stuff. This is not hard.
Well, I work with a lot of like regenerative beef and meat farmers around the country. So I love doing like a big kind of bison cookout, and like for a lot of vegan, I turn vegans, right? So I love cooking a lot of mushrooms and eggplant and stuff on the grill. But I posted on our little thread what I love to cook, and I always get the biggest ovation for is my Vietnamese pho. I have a 36-hour recipe that I put in there, which you guys can all try out. Everyone, you can add it to the link.
Yeah.
But essentially, I learned the recipe just from like this Vietnamese woman, probably in 2014, and it was like, hers was like 16 hours. So I do mine for 36 hours. So like the broth is like super thick, super fatty. I don't strain out the fat, so it's like almost like a ramen level broth. But yeah, the whole recipe's in there. So that's my favorite. Everyone loves that, and it's super super affordable. And having like if you cook a big pot, you can cook for 100 and like $50, super affordable. The greens you put on the toppings are super affordable as well. So that's my favorite, and that's on there as well.
Oh,
This is good.
Is so good.
I'm copying it down, Misha, right now, and I'm putting it on my thing, so I have it right here this is good.
Yeah,
So
we'll put the link in the notes too.
Now with that, okay, Misha, like one of the big discussions too, when you have like became vegan and you have meat, right? So what is your answer to, or your thoughts about, meats versus not meat? I mean, because there's some individuals that say it's all carnivore diet, and it's like, and I know everybody's by individual, everybody has their own individual take, but is it beneficial? Like, what do you usually suggest for people who do want to go vegan? Is there certain types of conditions, or are there certain types of health risks that you say you should be vegan? And the other people who say I want to be carnivore? Because we're hearing both sides, and I think it's not either or. But what's your take on that?
So maybe I'm the bad guy. I think it is a little more either or than we think it is. I think a lot of the vegans who become vegan are maybe not in our community, but there's a lot of like pizza French fry vegans, vegetarians who it's not really the healthiest way to go. You can do it. You can be really conscientious. You got to have a lot of hemp, a lot of chia, a lot of good quality nuts, good quality oils. You got to have I think a lot of good quality mushrooms. A lot of vegans don't probably eat enough mushrooms, but I think it's hard to do it correctly, but no, you can do it. I think we have to think about there's no voluntary society, throughout the history of man where there were kind of vegans, there were by choice, there were, but not by evolution. So that's one thing. And there's all these arguments of, we need to cook meat in order for our brains to evolve, and we're, that changed us from the monkeys. So I have all these doctors who are super stringent on that. I believe in ethical vegans, to not like push them too hard. So if they have an ethical reason to not kill animals, or they want to not eat meat ethically, that's fine. But to use the arguments of how going vegan is going to save, help with climate change and reversing greenhouse gases. These arguments aren't really true, because if we change over to a regenerative farming model, which we're kind of seeing that's slowly kind of moving that direction for this factory farming, it's actually positive 2.75 carbon parts per billion to make one Impossible beef burger, and it's negative 2.75 carbon parts per billion to make a grass-finished burger. So you need to make two grass-finished burgers to offset one. Yeah. So it's these arguments aren't really true. And then my issue is not so much with the vegans, what they're eating, but more like the industry now. And I'll send you this picture of, like, I think it's all the top fast food chains are now doing Impossible or Beyond meat, right? Which is now the studies coming out that like they're killing rats in 7 days, and the FDA was pushed. I mean, some lobby obviously pushed the FDA to approve all this stuff, and FDA is probably going to have this huge class action lawsuit in 10 years. Like, people are going to get very, very sick. So if you go vegan, like, you can do it by a lot of hemp, a lot of mushrooms, a lot of whole real food, and like stick away from the processed foods. You can do it. But if you really want to do it, great. But almost every vegan entrepreneur, every vegan influencer that I've worked with, except for like the past like 10 years, secretly have like come to me to ask them how to get away from being a vegan because they're getting sick, their teeth are falling out, their hair is falling out, and they're getting on a fish in 2 days and they're feeling better. And I've had vegans say, "Oh, I had a piece of steak, like at Burning Man, I get this vegan, like I called the vegan buster. I basically was a chef at Burning Man, so I gave this vegan a piece of bison, and she was like, I literally felt my neurons like coming back on, and like I was laughing, but it was like sad because you literally like this woman, super skinny, probably only drinks green juices, and like had a piece of meat. She's like, oh, I feel like this is what I should feel like in nature, like what my brain's working. So that was mind blowing to me. Like hearing stories like that. So I don't know, eat a lot of vegetables. So I'm like plant rich. I would say my plate's 20% animal protein, 80% vegetables, and good quality grains if I have to, or if I'm binging some bagels or whatever. But
yeah, that's a wild story though about the vegan that had the steak. But it's
I have heard the story all the time. I mean, I have clients who even just eat like a real vegetable meal or a real whole meal. Who's not vegan will say, "Oh, I feel my neurons coming back on," and I'm like, "Oh, geez, what are we eating all day?"
Yeah, well, you know what? Those amino acids, they go a long way for the brain and the body. So I will say, like, the only thing I've really been interested in tracking is protein, because like counting macros and stuff like gives me anxiety. But for a short period of time, I started tracking my protein intake just because I was like, because I had a baby like recently and all the stuff. And I was just like, I wonder if I'm getting enough, because I just felt like I wasn't sleeping well. And I was like way under eating on protein. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize until I started actually tracking how much protein I was getting. When I increased it, I like immediately dropped like 7-8 pounds, put lean. Yeah. I mean, I was like my body composition changed. Like I was working out like the exact same, but I was able to build more lean muscle tissue and burn more fat. And then like some of the anxiety and like the mood and just hormones, like I felt so much better.
Yeah. I mean, vitamin B is basically a hormone, right? So like, and I think like we really forget there's something called CLA, conjugated linoleic acid in grass-fed meat and grass-fed beef and grass-fed butter, which is basically a super fatty acid that's amazing for your brain, amazing for heart health, but like phenomenal for your brain. So even as you said it, right? I cook everything in omega-3 oils, basically everything, right? Coconut oil, olive oil, grass-fed butter, and our ghee. And you literally will see people who have eaten, and I have clients who like eat like crap and like probably haven't gone to the bathroom in like 2 days. There's like a line for like the bathroom because of the fiber and the things are like, oh, I actually haven't had a good bowel movement in like 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, well, eat some real food, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That complicated.
Love a good BM.
I mean, we can talk about enemas all day, Misha, when it comes to that. I think that when you talk about like
that's the next teacher. I love a good BM. There we go.
I'm literally taking down notes.
Write this down.
Product line. Yeah. When we say that, increasing B vitamins, I think it is often forgotten that when, because I have patients that are vegan and the vegetarian, and I think that the amount of B vitamins that you can get from a great piece of steak and the amount of iron is you have to eat a lot more vegetables in some instances to get that much amount.
Supplement really stringently, yeah.
Yes. And I mean, and it's really important too that I've seen patients where their liver actually was activated a bit more when they got on meat protein products because their methylation cycles, they were just starving for B vitamins. And they were just like, I need B vitamins. And I know we know, like in our realm here, many people out there don't know. It's like if you don't get like enough iron or certain types of Bs, I mean, we're talking about hormone degradation or hormone recycling. We're talking about how you actually detoxify hormones and you actually create better pregnenolone and progesterone. And so just seeing people's hormones balance from doing more meats was very surprising to me. So I was not surprised after I started reading more about like carnivore diet, where some of my patients said, I'm just going to do carnivore. And literally like many of their hormone cycle issues, like ladies just stopped and it was great. Like they were some actually got pregnant and such after that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's what you hear these stories in functional medicine all the time where people can't even get pregnant. And also the cortisol level, that's a big thing too for people. And the second they just change their gut flora and their gut bacteria, I mean, it seems like it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Then they can like conceive. And it's I've had clients who change in like 2 weeks, have been trying for years and just change their diet, and they're like getting pregnant like that. So I think a lot of us, like, especially on this podcast as leaders, you have to help spread the word and like educate people that you need to supplement, with nutrition to really kind of start that, the engine of, healing yourself and healing your community. And that's kind of my whole job is the Health Warrior Project, is to inspire people all over the globe to become little health warrior community workers, almost partners in health level healthcare workers, to heal the larger community using food, urban farming, regenerative farming, healing centers, but really all around food, and food being the activation point.
Yeah.
That's my mission. Yeah.
That's so true. Okay. I want to pivot because I want to make sure we cover this. We were talking early on about biohacking, and you were actually talking about doing this for some of your friends and things like that. And I know that you have, what is it?
The Biohouse.
Yeah. I was like drawing a blank there. Okay. So tell me about these centers, and maybe even just give me an idea of like, what's your favorite? Like, what are you seeing that's working? Because there's like this whole industry of biohacking tools, and it's like, oh my gosh, we need the red light and the infrared sauna and the ice plunge and like all these things that people are like, I don't have enough hours in the day to do all the different things. So, what is it that you really like, number one, that you see that's like, this moves the needle? And two, like, tell us about Biohouse, like, tell us about these centers, because I think it's a really, like, I don't know how this stuff doesn't exist already, because I'm like, this is like, that's what people really need, and it's hard. Like, it's like finding a needle in a haystack to find a place that kind of addresses all these different things. So I'd love to go into like the biohacking world a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess quickly on what the Biohouse is. So the Biohouse was created, we started off in Austin to basically create a trauma-informed healing center. I noticed a lot of people in the space were like, there's a lot of, I guess to go really honestly of why we created this is there's a lot of predatorship in the wellness space, and especially in the psychedelic medicine space. So I was working with this, psychedelic church in Austin, and it ended up seeing a lot of really dark things happening with leadership. So I wanted to create a safe space for people to do the integration work, but also create a trauma-informed healing center where we can do, Thai massage, acupuncture, energy work, frequency work. I have all these practitioners all over the country that we do the yoga retreats, breath works, but also we do brand activations. So one of the major selling points, for my brands, and also for my clients and members that come in, is we have brands that I believe in, or brands that I've met on the biohacking circuit or in the wellness space, that either A, don't have a brick and mortar and they want to have a physical location to do brand activations. Two, they just want to be a part of the ecosystem in the community. And we do retreats, we do, full brand activation days, week activations, monthly activations. So some of these activation costs subsidize the community and the low and kind of subsidize for the low income, sector who potentially couldn't pay for these services. So we have like cold plunge, saunas. We're going to get a Russian Turkish bathhouse potentially in our Oregon location. We have, red light therapy. There's this device called immortal.com. We should check that out. They're like a 5-stacked analog PMF red light, phenomenal brand that I'm working closely with. Lionheart Ventures has these PMF, suits. So we have a lot of different locations of different brands. But I think personally, one of the brands I really believe in, I think everybody could have in their home is like a biohacking tool, is Therasage. I'll write their link here. So Therasage.com, they have one of the probably the best infrared, or they have the best infrared sauna, portable infrared sauna on the market. They have these amazing TheraFrost portable cold plunges as well, that probably top of the line in the marketplace. But they also have all these amazing SKU of products, but like red lights and jade back massage heating chairs. But what's so great about their infrared sauna is it's totally not plastic. It's all like bamboo, and everything's made from amazing synthetic materials that are not synthetic, but amazing natural materials. But just the Biohouse in general is basically a community space and a community center for almost think of it as like a brand incubation mentorship program for brands, but also it's like a Soho house for co-working, but also networking, and we have dinners and we have social gatherings. There's a membership. There's a membership program, but we also can sell tickets, or if you're a friend of a friend, you don't really obviously could be part of the family, to really educate people on the brands that are out there and the products that are out there to actually help people. And I would say I use trauma as like probably a little too much, but really what trauma means is anything that makes your body not safe or not in a parasympathetic state where you're actually at rest. So our job is to put you in the most, fundamentally calm incubation space where you actually can work through that trauma, work through your integration if you have your own stuff you're going through, and then learn about products and, workshops that might be interesting to you in your network in the biohacking space.
So you have the effect of all these great therapies together. Do you have like therapists in there? And we talk about when they talk about psychedelics or talk about herbs and stuff like that. Do you have like practitioners in there as well, like that sort of guide people on like what kind of herbs and supplements and things like that help out along with the food and how to do the food preparation? Is that like a all encompassing, right? Like the Soho House is in one spot.
Yeah. So I have different practitioners in different locations, but I have basically and I think in Oregon right now and in Austin, where we have a psychedelic kind of approval, because we're working with indigenous tribes. So we have some like sovereignty stuff we're working with, and but basically we're doing we have a ketamine clinic we're working with, and we have a therapist that does approved MDMA and mushrooms with, I think it's an organization she works with in Oregon, and also another one in LA actually. So I think ultimately what we do is and part of what I do is I'm a networker, and I build people who are in this. I believe there's a lot of white space in the wellness industry where everyone's kind of working really siloed. My job is to make everyone come together. So we have the farmer, the doctor, the psychiatrist, the scientist, the biohacker, and the yoga teacher and the breathwork teacher all come together in a meal. And so everyone can help each other and everyone can lift up. And again, rising tide lifts all ships. So I'm not, if I have one, cold plunge company, I'm not going to say no to another one, because we're all trying to build this together and outsource, the best products to help our clients. But if someone who wants to be a part of the program in LA, Boston, Miami, Austin, and Oregon, and potentially Puerto Rico in the next few weeks, if anybody wants a specific offering that we need, they can reach out to me or my team, and we can curate that for them easily and at their convenience.
Mm-hmm.
So good. You sound like a water element. Do you think are you water?
I thought I was fire.
You might be fire, but just the connection, like trying, just connecting people. I feel like, I don't know.
Right.
What do you think, Dr.
You'll read my chart. I'll give you all my numbers, and we can read my chart. How about that?
I'm not the expert. That is for certain, but Dr. Motley could probably do a better job.
I do.
Podcast. We'll do my whole chart. Perfect.
Oh, that would be awesome. That'd be awesome. We'd love to do it. So, okay. So you do the podcast, you're going to have the whole studio set up. Do you have like your podcast studio, like set up down in Puerto Rico, or is it going to be like in certain areas? You can do it anywhere.
We're setting that up now. We have one in LA already fully set up. Where are you guys based?
I'm in Nashville. She's in Charleston.
Okay. Yes. We have this, basically this high-end recording music, the film score studio in Inglewood, California, which we kind of do community biohacking work and also podcasts and, sound recordings, and do like art and music healing is one of our biggest trends. So that is our podcast studio now. And we're going to be opening the Puerto Rico podcast studio, I think, in like 2 weeks. I'm literally here at Boston right now organizing that. So we'll make an ancient health podcast room. We'll get a big banner and we'll make it work.
Yes.
Love it.
Do it, Misha. Let's do it, man.
I'm in. And then we're going to get the merch line going, because we already have so many ideas for t-shirts.
Oh, no, that was amazing. And I was at New York Fashion Week last night with my partners who are part of this indigenous group called Indigenous Enterprise, who go around the country and educate on dance and music, but they're like the last of the tribal dancers. I'll send you some videos, but in Puerto Rico, we're working with the Taino Native Americans, the Caribbean Native Americans, to actually do some more travel work there. So we'll tie in Ancient Health podcast with the indigenous down there, and we'll get everybody super dialed in with the ancient ways of healing.
Oh
and
man, this will
get the
be
teachers
great.
in there with some cool photos.
This is going to be great. So with all of this, Misha, we see that your goal, which I'm so thankful that you do see, like within a health field out there in social media, that predatory you're talking about, like when people are just trying to make more money and just trying to like advocate just for their benefit in that sense. So I love it that you're making these clinics all around to help people know themselves even more. So with the Health Warrior Project online, like, can they get there and they're going to get on there and they're going to have all the access to like different recipes, different biohacking and such all laid out for them right on there? Because it's an amazing website when I've searched it out.
There's some stuff. There's some stuff on there. Most of the, if you want to like get more detailed information, you can reach out to me, Instagram or my website, the contact, email me. But yeah, I have recipes on there. If you want to get more recipes from me, I can send you. I'm making 2 cookbooks for now, so I'm not having all my recipes on my website, but I'll send you recipes. Clients can hire me for whatever they need. I do, digital cooking classes, catering, big events, weddings, bar mitzvahs, whatever you need. But absolutely. We also do retreats. So I do a lot of like wellness retreats. Maybe we could do an ancient health retreat at this property in Oregon. We can go to Puerto Rico or wherever you want to go. Make it happen.
Oh man, this is good.
You know what, Chris, I'm thinking the gallbladder retreat.
Yeah. We're going to do a gallbladder retreat.
We're like, we need to do a gallbladder retreat.
It's going to be
my doctor's like one of the top gut functional medicine GI doctors in the country. So we could bring her and get it going, done.
Oh yeah. Court, you never know. Okay, let's do this. That'd be fun.
Or we don't. We just bring the frequency doc. Fuck it. Let's just bring you. Sorry, Robin.
Oh man, this is so cool. I'm really inspired by all that you're doing because you're kind of like, you're in uncharted territory because there's a lot of people that are like super brand focused or they're just developing like one thing, but you're kind of putting all the pieces together, which that can be the hardest thing to do for a lot of people. It's like they can find certain pieces of the puzzle, but it's not until you can get them all into focus together that you start to see the healing really take place and really like get to that place where you feel like you improve your baseline. So I think that you're an incredible guide, in shedding light on all these different areas to give people a vision. And gosh, your story, it's wild. Like there's probably just layers and layers and layers of just so much personal growth that you've had to experience to get to where you are today. I think that speaks volumes. And so just getting to know you a little bit as a person, it's really impressive to see all you've done and just super excited to see, how you're carrying that forth into your mission. So, but I'd love for you to just leave our listeners with something, I can tell you're like all of us here, like we're constant learners. And so there's always things that we just feel like are maybe just like new revelations that just kind of help us look at things in a different way. What's something in your life right now that you feel like has just been top of mind? Like something, it could be a lesson you're learning, or it could be something you're inspired by or challenged by, but I'd love for you to share that because I could just tell you're like somebody that probably has like really deep insight, and I'd love to, just like get into that a little bit. It doesn't have to be super deep either. It could be something.
I guess. Well, I could go kind of Confucius says over here. So like one of the things that really, I'm dealing with a lot, and the payment that has a year or so or 2 years is. I'm not saying I'm a visionary or I'm a forward thinker, but people who are creatives or artists, especially artists or visionaries, you're going to have a lot of people in your life that are going to second guess you and say, you're probably not going to do it. Or why would you think of this? And why would you think of that? Why are you the one that's going to change the world? And there's a quote, right? The only people that can change the world are crazy enough to think they can do so. So one thing that I want to say to people is we get really stuck in this perfectionist mindset, or I can't do it until it's perfect, and I need everything to be all my ducks in a row to be, lined up before I, take this job or ask this person out for a business deal or take this person to lunch and pick their brain for whatnot. So, or to start this career. So what I would say is there's a line in Varsity Blues. It's a football movie, high school, which says, believe in yourself and throw the ball. or believe in yourself and throw the ball. I would say what I've been using a lot lately is believe in the ball and throw yourself. Like believe in the game that you're doing and just throw yourself as far as you can, and then reverse engineer how to get there. But don't think about how to get there. Just get there. And I think a lot of people, they, especially in the wellness space or on the wellness journey, they don't see like the 3 weeks of getting there. They just want that they want to see the end result. So I would just say, in wellness, mental health, business, career, whatever, just believe in the ball and just throw yourself as far as you can. And then the ball will be there and then you'll just show up. So I think if I could leave everyone with that is like, you also are the quarterback and the CEO of your own journey and your own health. And if you forget that you're not in charge, that's because you're probably dealing with a lot of inflammation in your brain that's making you feel like you're having a panic attack and you're not capable, but you are capable. Just breathe, take a nap if you really are stressed out, and then take a cold shower and then start all over. And that's pretty simple. And then downward dog, 20 minutes.
Amazing.
Downward dog and chill out. Man, we started there. We finished there.
We finished it. We started with downward dog. We're going to finish.
That's a sweatshirt in the back. All right.
That's right.
Varsity print.
I love it. Man, so good. Misha, you're a cool dude. I like you. I like what you're doing. You're fun. You've obviously, like I said, you've got a lot to offer people. I hope that they've enjoyed this conversation and episode, but I want to make sure that everybody knows where to connect with you, because you do have tons of articles and blogs and recipes and ways to just, take what we've talked about and go even deeper. So you want to hit us up with the different places people can find you, and we'll make sure we link those in the show notes too.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at thehealthwarriorproject.com or at the Biohaus, house spelled Haus. My mother's German, forgive me. I'm Jewish and German, funny story. And my email or my website, the Health Warrior Project, you can find me. It's the contact at the bottom, just close to my email, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
So
Great.
Cool. Oh, man.
Well, it has been a very big pleasure, and it has been fun. You're a fun dude, and I'm just saying we had a great time talking with you, Misha. And so for all of you out there who want to contact Misha, he told you how to contact him, and we're going to keep on promoting you, my friend. And, maybe me and Courtney do come down to Puerto Rico, and we'll see about doing some podcasting down there with you, my friend. That would be awesome.
I got to drive down to Miami in the next month. Maybe I'll just stop by on the way.
Stop by Nashville or Charleston. We're here. And so I'm just glad, but it's going to be a good time, guys. You're going to see some adventures. You're going to see, Courtney down at those bio bays where they're just illuminating stuff. She's going to have her coffee enema tube in hand. She's going to rock it out, Misha. So guys,
I have the enema queen. She comes down and does like coffee matcha enemas, everyday dose.
Oh my goodness. Courtney's like this. You see Courtney's face, Misha? She's like,
yeah.
Wait, don't you tease me, Misha.
We had a spot. We had an everyday dose with our mushroom coffee sponsor, and they have a mushroom matcha. So it's like the best enema in town.
Courtney will never leave. You'll stay there forever. It's gonna be.
Yeah. You know what? We'll just have to send all the kids now, and I'll take your but you have me sold. So this is so great.
Sunblock will be perfect.
Awesome. Man. All right, guys. This has been a fun time.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Misha, for joining us today.
Thanks,
Dr. Motley, always so good to co-host with you. If you've liked this episode, make sure you share it. Make sure you follow Misha, the Health Institute. Leave us a review, hang out on Instagram, send a DM. We'd love to hear from you. Love to see how the podcast is serving your health journey. And we will see you guys on the next episode.